Welcome to Freda Channel Analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to request you to subscribe to our channel if you are watching for the first time. Click the notification bell and like our videos. It seems that the high cost of living that has rocked Kenyans under the Ruto administration is not ending any soon. And in fact, if there is one man who is between a rock and a hard place, is President William Samoei Ruto. Because while campaigning in the last general election, William Ruto assured the Hustler Nation that immediately he takes oath of office, he's going to ensure that within 100 days, he's going to bring down the cost of living and the skyrocketing prices of the basic commodities. But that is not going to happen very soon, and I really want the Hustler Nation to understand this. And the reason why it is not ending any soon, and the reason I'm saying that William Ruto is between a rock and a hard place, is that while it is a fact that he gave Kenyans a promise that is going to bring the high cost of living down within 100 days, there are other conditions that have been given by the other partner that aided his bid to become the president. Because you all understand that even as the Hustler Nation, you voted for William Ruto to become the president, there were other vested interests that played out. And one of them was the international community. Now recently, the International Monetary Fund, while releasing a 55.5 billion Kenya shillings loan to William Samoei Ruto, the loan came with a number of conditions. And one of the conditions was that the Ruto administration must completely abandon the subsidies that were put in place by the former administration, Uhuru Kenyatta. You are all aware that already the subsidies on fuel had been abandoned and the prices of fuel have gone up. And if you didn't know, it is because the IMF compelled William Ruto to do that because that was the condition under which William Ruto and the Kenya administration could get the loan. Now, if you check Twitter, KPLC is trending number 2 or 3 there. Why? It is because the cost of electricity bill is going to shoot up in the next 2 days. Why? Because the subsidy that Uhuru Kenyatta placed on the cost of electricity is ending on 31st of December. That is tomorrow. And there's a story that is carried in the Standard, both the Standard and the Nation, and even if you check the Star, that William Ruto was still considering whether to extend the subsidy on the tokens and the both was paid at the prepaid tokens. But the international, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, has rejected completely any idea to extend the subsidy on token. Kenya and Kenyans are already grappling with a myriad of challenges, economic challenges, that if they imagine that there were subsidies that had been placed and are now being abandoned, I'm telling you, it is like adding salt to injury. Now, let me tell you how this came up. When the corona pandemic ravaged our country, the former president Uhuru Kenyatta sat down with his economic think tanks because youths had lost their jobs. Parents had been kicked out of their places of work. The hotel industry was completely stalled. Kenyans were suffering. So Uhuru Kenyatta sat down with these economic think tanks and they decided that they were going to cushion some of the very important areas that Kenyans cannot do without. One of them was fuel, because you all understand that when the prices of fuel skyrocket, then the price of every other commodity will also go up. because the cost of production is factored in. So Uhuru Kenyatta decided that they were going to subsidize fuel, that is the petrol, kerosene, and all that. But by October this year, obeying the conditions that were given by the IMF, William Ruto eradicated and abandoned that subsidy, and now the fuel prices are going up and they are set even to skyrocket further. Now, if you look at a report on by the IMF, they are saying that as a result of the subsidy on token, KPLC has suffered liquidity problems. And they're saying that if this subsidy is abandoned, then it is going to cushion the liquidity situation within the next 3 years. I have seen some Kenyans trying to share just how much they buy token. In fact, someone was giving an example of how much 1,000 shillings used to cost when you're buying a token worth 1,000 shillings in 2021 and what it costs now. And I can assure you that Kenyans must brace themselves for even tougher times. It is not ending there. I was surprised that come next year, even the subsidy on school fees that had been placed has been abandoned, and parents will have to dig deeper into their pockets to pay for school fees, the boarding school fees. I'm just wondering, where really are we headed to? Because some of these subsidies did not just come. In fact, all of them, as I have indicated earlier, was as a result of consultative forums between economists and politicians, and they looked at the implications economically and politically. But it seems that when the current administration ascended to power, they are serving some interest, the foreign master's interest. And that is the reason I'm saying that our president is between a rock and a hard place. Because on one side, he promised that he was going to bring the cost of living down within 100 days. And on the other hand, the IMF and the international community is giving conditions that are contrary to his promise to the hustler nation. I wanted to bring this so that you brace yourself for tough times ahead. No wonder, I remember the first interview that Rigathi Gachagua gave after they took off. And Rigathi Gachagua said that they cannot continue to subsidize consumption because it is not sustainable. And they said that they will continue to subsidize production. In fact, Njuguna Ndung'u, who is it Njuguna Ndung'u, the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Finance, said that the only subsidy that the government is going to give is the subsidy on fertilizer, which I really agree is good. But the only question that I'm asking, and I believe very many Kenyans are asking, is Uhuru Kenyatta gave these subsidies as mitigation measures just to ensure that even as we look for long-term solutions, the short-term solutions should also be there because people are dying. You cannot, for example, tell a hungry Kenyan to wait until you give them fertilizer, a subsidized fertilizer, to plant maize and wait for those months before production time. How will that hungry Kenyan survive between the period of planting and the period of harvest? And this is the question that everyone is asking. I have indicated here before that the reason why I do not understand some of William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua's policy is because when they do away with these subsidies, the remedy that they gave to me is just one thing. For example, when you do away with subsidy on unga, then you give us a pay bill number to remit some of our funds to help Kenyans who are hungry. Really, is it a policy that is economically viable? To me, it is not. And so I just, I feel that Ayub D, I think, is the author of is the man behind the bottom-up economy. And I have a feeling, because I'm not an economist, but I've got a feeling that even as they try to ensure that they subsidize production, consumption is also very important. Now, these conditions prove further to the nation that William Samoei Ruto was actually a project of the West. Because we talk about the GMO at the speed with which William Ruto is carrying it and trying to force it in Kenya, you realize that this is someone who is serving the foreign masters. And now the conditions that we are being given here, regardless of what Kenyans are going through, because if you read the Standard and the Nation, they are saying that Ruto is torn between a hustler and the